to the Action Shooting Show. Tonight I have Mark Rebke with me. It is me as always, Ryan Dixon. And tonight we're going to be talking about doing an after action report on a newer match that this is the first one they've run. And as far as I know, it's kind of the first one in that part of the country. And that's the Badger Trek. And that's in Wisconsin. Trekker.
Yep.
Badger Trekker in Wisconsin. So Mark is now our South Canada correspondent. So we sent him out into the field. It's been a while since he did a run and gun. I know he's been shooting some USPSA and other stuff, but first run and gun in a while. And we're happy he was there. I was going to try to get some other people on. It didn't really pan out with time-wise, but Ohio and Kentucky sent a lot of people out there for what's probably a pretty, I mean, that's got to be 10 hours. So, all right, well, let's kind of get into it. So, match flavor. Do you want to kind of go over that, Mark?
Yeah, the match flavor was pretty much pure run and gun. Like what we first got into, what we talk about all the time. How fast can you run? How fast can you shoot? Wasn't a lot of weird stuff. There wasn't a lot of like CrossFit, games. There wasn't weird obstacle courses. There wasn't memory games. It was just do two gun and run. So kind of back to the basics, I'd say. Pure run and gun maybe.
I saw there's a swamp, right? There's some swampy area.
Kind of. The whole half of their property is swamp, but it's like there's stuff to walk on. It's just really spongy. It wasn't wet, but it was like a marsh kind of thing. Like when you're trying to run or jog or whatever, it took all the bounce out of your step. It was just like being on foam. It was really weird.
So probably makes you work a little bit harder.
Yeah, I mean, people that run, I'm mostly a walker, but other people, yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, any of that extra, that's kind of the fun and the challenge is, people can go run a 7-minute mile on asphalt. And it's like, that's impressive. That's cool. And then try to do that in like overgrown CRP field or swamp or something like that. And your 7-minute mile quickly becomes a 10 and 12 and 13-minute mile because it really takes a little bit more work. All right, so standard run and gun. Now to be fair, you say no obstacles and stuff, but at least the first run and gun we ever did, Matt's March match, he had some obstacles there. There's things you climbed over, you climbed under. There was a mud pit that was completely dried up by the time I went because, as always, I'm the last person out on the course. I'm the last person sent out or close to last. So there's that's not such a bad thing, but
right.
Sounds like pretty straightforward. I mean, their first one, I would say as a match director, you probably don't want to throw too much complication into something if it's your first one. Just kind of get your feet wet and figure out the flow of a match.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so distance, divisions, stuff like that. What all was there?
So there was a 5K and a 10K. I did the 5K. Division-wise, it was all just wide open. So there was one placing for 5K and one placing for 10K.
As you like to say, run what you brung.
Right.
Which is for those maybe watching this and you're not real sure what run and gun is, which maybe we should explain that. But you finish a distance of a course. So in this case, 5-10K. Usually it's a little more than that. It's always a rough measurement. You're running from stage to stage, shooting them, running, walking, hiking, whatever you do. You got to carry all your guns, ammo, all of that from the beginning to end. No resupply, no restock. The beauty of that is that gear is kind of self-selecting. So if you're used to USPSA, you're used to 3-gun, and you got guys running, you think, well, how's the limited guy compared to the open guy? Well, in a running gun where you're going through marshy stuff, we just got done with Legion. There was a swamp there, doing swims at Guardian. If you've got like a straight tuned, like open gun, Seymour on top, the full thing, you're probably going to have a bad time. Like the kind of environment that you get it in, your open guns are not going to run. You want to have a big heavy gun, if you're precision stuff, you got to lug it. If you got a 30-pound precision rifle, you've got to lug it through the match. So it kind of self-selects for gear that you want what's practical and to do well, but having all the extra stuff or a bunch of junk is kind of self-selecting because you don't want to carry it through the course or it's not going to work. So that's pretty standard, but sounds like they kind of followed along with everyone else.
Yep.
All right. So you wussed out and did the 5K. I get it.
Right. I didn't. So I was on the wait list until the Saturday before. So I didn't even remember that I had signed up for it until they emailed me. And I was like, oh, crap. Yeah, I'll do a 5K. Anyone can do a 5K. I'll just do the 5K. So
that is true. So next year we expect a report on the 10K.
Right.
So you got it. All right. So gear use/needed. What'd you take? Is there anything special that people maybe needed or should have brought, or maybe you should have brought?
So I just ran my 16-inch 3-gun / run and gun rifle with the Vortex 1-6 on it, running just 55 grain ammo. No bipod. You could have maybe used a bipod on one stage, but didn't need it. And then just a regular Glock pistol with the dot. And then I ran chest rig with 2 30-round mags and a pistol mag, and then regular belt, 2 pistol mags, rifle mag, and then my Camelback that I always do running guns with, which is about as small of a pack that you can still call a pack. It's just a Camelback with 1 container in the back. So pretty slick setup. It was very hot when I was running. It was like 88. So I was in shorts and a t-shirt and tried to keep as much stuff, be as slick as I could. There's people that ran plate carriers and there was no weight division or anything like that. There's guys that wore helmets with GoPros on the entire time. And so people were sweating. It was very hot. I think when I got back, I went and showered after I ran. I think it was 91 when some people were still running. So it was very warm to be wearing plate carriers and stuff, especially when you didn't need them. So I was trying to be as slick as I could.
Yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, that's the one thing about running gun, which I'll give it to you. If some people use this as training for shit hits the fan, martial, whatever. If you plan to fight in a plate carrier, you probably should know how you're going to go in a plate carrier. I kind of treat this as more of a game. Not that I don't, prepare or try to kind of set myself up for that, but and I've run in plates when they have divisions and stuff like that. So it's good to get that gear out, but I'm all for, some people it's just LARPing. You know what I mean? It's live action role play. They want to put their plates on. They want to go run around and do commando stuff. And you know what? That's good for them. That's fun. We all got our different things. So I think
if you
awesome.
don't have plates on, we're still pretty much LARPing.
I mean, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And got to have a little bit of LARPing.
I can't wait to talk about we're going to have to record a Legion after action here when I can get Mike on. And they had a whole stage. I'll kind of give a teaser. They had a whole stage. You ran up and this guy, there's not really a stage brief. He said, okay, these are your special forces, your 5th group teammates. Listen to what they do. Load your gun when they tell you to load it. Do what they tell you to do, and you'll get through the stage. And you came up, and they introduced themselves. Hey, I'm Seth. Hey, I'm Jay. Hey, I'm Ryan. And then they started into like a little script. Yeah, we got a roadblock down the way. You've got we've kind of had this blocked off here. Some guys have been taking pot shots at us at 225 yards, at 250 yards. I mean, this whole thing. And then time started when a simulated artillery went off. And they started yelling, get the gun loaded, get on target, they're out there. And it was a big, LARPing. They got a 5th group guy next to you, shooting next to you. I mean, it was it's as live action role play as you kind of get. So with real life heroes. So yeah, that's a fun part of the match. If someone takes themselves too serious and doesn't want to admit that, sorry, it's fun. So, all right. So kind of standard gear, sling. Were you running standard, biathlon, anything like that?
So I brought both. I brought a 2-point adjustable and I brought a biathlon, and I went back and forth, and I decided for 5K, a 2-point adjustable will be fine. I didn't expect to be running much, and I figured keep it simple. So I just ran the 2-point.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. That's generally what I run with shorter matches, or if I'm rucking, like you're not going to be running much, but I will say the biathlon sling and then like a real small hydration pack that kind of buffers your back from the gun is about as comfortable as you can move around with a gun. So, all right, so let's get on. So 5K, how many stages did you have?
So there was 6 stages officially. There's really 5 shooting stages. But we'll kind of get to that when we get to it. But
okay, and
6
then the
stages.
10K had
I want to say
more,
they had 8 or 9, maybe.
Oh,
I
good
don't
deal.
remember. They had a couple more.
Okay.
So
yeah. So I guess, you start, or well, let's go into what's the terrain.
So
I mean, you mentioned there's kind of some soft, spongy, what's the course look like?
So their gun range is about 80 acres, and you start up on a little hill and you run down the hill, and that's kind of mostly wooded. So it's kind of shaded there, and then you shoot in some bays and then go out in the marsh and then come back through some woods. And so very little elevation change, just like 2 hills, and they weren't bad. They're, say 20, 40, 60. It's hard to tell how big a hill is, but very small, like smaller than what I have in my neighborhood. So pretty small.
Okay, and is this like you're looping out and around and hitting different bay? I mean, is it the same course over and over? Because 80,
Yep.
You said 80 acres, kind of sounds like a lot, but you throw a couple bays in there, and
Yeah.
it's probably not.
So we pretty much ran the perimeter of the property. The 5K was 2 laps, and then the 10K was 3 laps, and then the 10K had a little kind of bump out on it, so they got a little extra to get that extra distance in 3 laps as opposed to just 2.
Okay. And that's great. See, I think people think you need like a huge, because we get spoiled. We used to have Rock Castle, and you got Dead Zero, and you got Lucas, and you've got like, DeWitt down there has got a lot of land, and South or North Carolina, and Sawmill, and like there's these places with like big open areas that you can do a lot, but it sounds like they did a lot with just a little, which is encouraging. So maybe more people can have these matches if they see how that format works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I wish
you run.
I wish I would have went where they had some shooting stuff on the 10K that you didn't get to see from the 5K. And I wish I would have walked over there and checked out how they had that area. But they're kind of like a traditional, where you think of a gun range where everything's all in one area, and they just happen to have that woodland where they could run out through. And so it gave you a place to run, and then you'd shoot and go back out, shoot, that kind of a thing. So like you said, very accessible if you're thinking, hey, we've got a little range, we'd like to try this.
And in my range with the sprinters and stuff, we've got woods, and I've thought about it, but you've got to cross a road to get there. And while it's not a very active road, I'm kind of leery about sending people across the road when they're racing. And, every adult should know to look both ways, but someone's going to get amped up and get run over by a tractor. So I haven't done it yet. We've got some more land on our property side, so maybe I'll start working that in next year. All right. So first stage, what's it look like?
First stage was rifle and pistol. It was a small bay, only 10, 15 yards. And they had those plastic, what do you call those targets you can just shoot over and over again? They had like the
throoms.
Yeah.
Like green throoms. Yeah, I love them.
But they were like the beer bottle ones though. And like the bowling pin.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
gotcha.
I don't know
okay,
if they're
so
made by Froome.
Maybe not. So just some kind of self-healing rubber.
So they had that at, again, like 10, 15 yards. And then they had a chest plate. And the stage was shoot one of the pieces of plastic hanging there with your rifle, set that down. And then they had a 20 kilogram medicine, or not medicine ball, kettlebell. And you had to
Kettle-
throw
kettlebell?
that, yep, kettlebell. So you threw that over just 2 barrels, just something to, your standard 55-gallon drums. Threw that over, then went around the barrels, shot one time with your pistol on the chest plate. Set your pistol down, throw the weight back over. Come back over, rifle, weight back and forth. I think it was 5 each. I want to say 5
Sounds like CrossFit.
It did. It was a little CrossFitty, but it wasn't bad, especially because you started the day with that. Like you weren't zapped when you got there, so you had plenty of energy for that. And so, I was a little worried about it, but it wasn't bad at all. And so, yeah, it was. I think it was just 5. Maybe it was 10 each. I don't think it couldn't have been 10 each. Maybe. I don't remember
10
now.
pound, 10
No,
pounds.
no, 10 shots
Oh,
each.
10
It was
shots
definitely
each.
it was definitely 20 kilograms. I looked at it afterwards. So
Oh,
45
okay.
pounds or 44 pounds,
Okay.
whatever they are.
That's sporty. Yeah.
Yeah. So that went well. I think I got like 5th on that one. So not bad.
Okay. I like stages with like, so, and Mark's talked about it. I don't want these huge weights. I don't want this huge, like, it's got to be accessible to everybody. But I do like things like that in a stage that, like, if you're going to walk the whole course and you're never going to get your heart rate up, I kind of want to get your heart rate up at a stage. Everyone's got their speed. I get it. I'm not saying everyone needs to sprint the whole thing like some of the faster people, but part of run and gun is seeing how you shoot when you're gassed. And if you just walk there and then you start shooting, you might as well go to a USPSA or a 3-gun match. So having you move some weight, do a sled drag or, something like that. Like I think that's a fun way to kind of challenge everybody. So it sounds like it was a pretty reasonable weight. I mean, for most people, 45 pounds is a doable lift.
I think honestly, thinking back on it now, it was right on the limit. Not for me or you, but there was I think there's a short female, and then there's at least one kid where it was like up to their chest to get it over. Where
so maybe the height,
but
was
the
a
barrels were
little more
still
of an
low.
issue.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It was right at the limit, because I've seen more CrossFitty stages where it's up over something, and and then they've got to go under, like where you really make people work. And so I think this was the right kind of balance.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Someone was telling me about that yesterday. They have like a 200-pound sandbag in the men's division, 200-pound sandbag that you have to throw over a, eye height bar and then go under. And then the women's division, it's like 120 or something like that. And I mean, I do a fair amount of lifting, and I'm sure I could do the 200, but like that's 200 pounds is more than I weigh.
Right. But then, like, we don't have any restrictions in just about any run and gun where you say, like, you could have a handicap and you could still be expected to do this stuff. But if you have a handicap, 200 pounds is not going over.
Yeah, no.
Like
I mean, I would be working pretty hard, and I mean, I don't know how many times they have to do it, but even
Right.
lifting, that's a lot. I lift I lift 5 days a week, really. So that'd be a lot of weight for me. So
right. I'm just saying,
no,
you would have to tell people, like, hey,
yes,
you are going to lift 200 pounds for it to be fair. If you showed up to one of these and they said 200 pounds, like,
yeah,
you're already
no,
on.
I would not be a fan of someone doing 200 pounds. I mean, I'm try to hit that middle mark. If someone's a beast, it's going to be easy for them. Okay. They've earned it because they worked that. If you're a little bit smaller and you got to work a little bit harder, sorry, life is hard.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, make it doable.
right. So this goes back to, I should have said this during match flavor. All the stages were blind. The only thing we knew was round count. So that kind of goes back to match flavor. I haven't shot a match with completely blind stages in a long time. You usually know something.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, Legion is all blind stages. Guardian was all blind stages. I mean, it's not an advantage for me, and 3-gun and that sort of thing. I excel at making a stage plan and executing it better than a lot of people, because just from the practice of that. So doing things blind maybe is an advantage for me, but I think that's a fun challenge. So,
yeah.
All right. So you do a little more running and you hit stage 2. What's going on there?
So stage 2 is out in the marsh. Now we're out of the bays, and they had a drainage ditch there, and you walked up and they gave you 2 shotgun shells. And you walked onto the stage and there's 2 shotguns sitting there, and they said pick a shotgun, and the choices were this double barrel coach gun and like a Mossberg 500 set up for like duck hunting. Yeah, you never even see a Mossberg 500 with a long barrel anymore, but
Yeah.
so
it's that's the coach gun.
right, it's clear. It's not even a choice.
Yeah.
You know, come on. I'm unforgiven. You know I'm going to take the coach
Yeah,
gun.
absolutely.
So they had you sit down on a chair, and they had like a pig and maybe I don't know what the skinny target was. They had like a skinny steel and then like a silhouette of a pig across the drainage ditch. And you had to stand up and yell like, it's coming right for me or something, and then blast both steel. And that was the stage. So there was nothing to it. And the reason for this is because now we're out in the marsh and they don't have berms or anything out there. And so you can shoot birdshot into the ditch and it's not a big deal. So I did really well on that one. I wish I could have gone faster. I was mad when I saw that I got second because I was like, I was half laughing and just kind of, just taking 2 shots.
The 3-gunner getting schooled by shotgun.
Right. So it was fun, and it was a good use of that space. It was a good way to give you something to do while you're out there. So I like that. And we didn't know that you were going to shoot shotgun. One of the guys I talked to, he'd never shot a shotgun before. He was like,
there you go.
You're going to learn something today.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, normally I didn't do well at Guardian this year, but normally when they throw a shotgun in a stage, that's like the 3-gunner in me is like, okay, we can gain a couple points here because there's a lot of people that they're like, I've never shot a shotgun before. It's a key gun. I mean, it's a little antiquated for a lot of what we do nowadays, but like it's a skill you should probably have and understand it.
Right. So that one was fun. I mean, simple stage, nothing to it.
Yeah. I'm glad you had to yell at it. That's like the old, was that South Park?
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So a little bit more running, obviously no obstacles or anything. And you head into stage 3.
Yep. So stage 3 is in their 100-yard bay. You climbed a ladder. So on start, you climbed the ladder on time and up on top of a Connex container. And then on top of the Connex container, there was 2 shooting positions they had kind of pre-set up for you. One was a stack of like ATV tires, not full-size truck tires, but like ATV tires. And then there were some sandbags. And you could choose where you shot from or how you shot. And they had 2 chest plates at 100. And what did you have to do? You just went back and forth like 5 times on each, 5 times on each one. And I saw the tires and I thought it was going to be faster to get back up because after that you had to shoot pistol. And I was like, I'm not going to lay all the way down if I've just got to shoot 10 times. And so I went and kneeled on the tires, but they were real wobbly. And I didn't realize, once you're committed to it, your brain doesn't tell you like, oh, I
mean, you should realize that a tire is not a stable thing, but in the moment you're like, I can make that work.
Right. So, and there were chest plates at 100 yards. So you're like, yeah, it's fine. Tim Cox, if we would have got him on, he said as soon as he got on there and felt how wobbly, he was like, oh, and just jumped right down on his belly onto the sandbags and shot down there. So let's say 5 each, back and forth. And then you slung a clear rifle and drew your pistol. And there was a bunch of steel down in front of the Connex. And you just worked your way around. I think there's 5 or 6 pieces. And you just had to hit everyone twice. And I maybe screwed up on this a little in that I didn't double tap them. I worked my way around twice because in my mind, I was thinking sometimes when you shoot a piece of steel, it turns weird, or you shoot twice and they only call it once, or, it wobbles. And so I thought, let everything settle down and I'll just work my way around twice. And so it went fine. I ended up like sixth on that one. So it ended up being kind of my worst stage, but overall it wasn't too bad. It was kind of fun too. Chest plates at 100 are kind of like where you're right on the edge of.
It's a meatball target almost. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like if you got any
Yep.
kind of rest, it's a
Yep.
meatball target.
And so you get
But
kind of some speed going back and forth, and it's just a little fun, you know. So
oh, absolutely.
yeah.
And you know, as a RO, a competitor, I really hate where people can double tap steel because you're right. The fast guys shoot it so fast that like, yeah, they're doubling most of them, but they missed that one, and you're pretty sure they missed it, and they keep going on, and then you didn't call hit, and then it kind of leads to. I've in my matches generally, if I got like yesterday we had a stage where I had 2 pistol targets. It was 1-2, 1-2. You had to hit the other one before you went back because it's just too hard to call hits when guys can just, you got a comp Glock or staccato or something like that, and they can just rip off 2 shots so quick it's hard to hear the 2 distinct dings.
Right. And that's the other thing that'll happen. Not only will the RO miss a call, sometimes an RO will call a hit when you didn't get a hit. If you go 2-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1 miss, it'll be hit, and they'll call you all the way through. And so, it's kind of the nature of the game. It happens.
It is, but yeah, I mean, as a MD and RO, like I do try to prevent that. Sometimes it happens, or for MDs have to do it for whatever reason, or they want to just see people rip shots real quick. I mean, there's a skill and a challenge and fun in that. So, but that's not a bad way if you're worried about someone calling it, or like you said, it moving weird. Maybe it's a little bit slower, but maybe not if you get all your hits and nothing gets missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess the lesson there is if you commit to a poor position with rifle, maybe you should not commit to it, and as soon as you realize it's not going to work, move.
Right.
Or do you think the rifle was like your sixth, going sixth on that? Was it your rifle or was it your pistol that you think? Or a little of both?
Probably my rifle, honestly. Because the other thing I did was I stayed on the very edge of it. Because, instead of being in the middle, I stayed where you had the most tire to support on, so I could reverse kneel. And I wonder if I was centered more, then I wouldn't have been on as wobbly. So I could have even just fixed that much, and that might have helped me.
Yeah, it's hard. You commit, and it's hard you don't want to waste a bunch of time by like trying 5 different positions to see what's more stable. And if you said it's a big target, sometimes you just have to roll with a bad position, and it's quicker, and then other times it's not. That's I guess the fun of the game. So that was stage 3. What was stage 4?
So you ran through the start finish. Now you've done 1 full lap, and then stage 4 is where stage 1 was. That was all their pistol base, and so stage 4 was rifle and pistol. You started rifle on a VTAC barricade, and they had 3 positions marked, and they had more of that plastic hanging garbage stuff at like 15 yards, 25 yards, something like that, pretty close. And so it was outside the VTAC, and then in the slant, and then in the mailbox or mail slot. And you had to shoot 3 targets from each position. And so you did that with the rifle, showed clear, slung your rifle, and then there were 2 50 cal ammo cans filled with sand, and then maybe a 3-foot tall plastic culvert, like a big plastic pipe. And you had to go through the pipe with your with your ammo cans, and then set them in a thing. And then there was I guess you'd call it like a Bianchi barricade. If it's just a wall where the edges of the shooting box are the width of the wall. And from there was maybe, I think, 6 pieces of steel that you shot with your pistol, 6 from one side and then 6 from the other side. Something like that. I think pretty low, maybe 8. It wasn't very many pieces of steel, but something like that. So the rifle went really well for me. And then the ammo cans, I asked them beforehand, could you throw them through? Because they're really heavy. They're full of sand. And they're like, oh, yeah, go for it. So I hucked these things through because I'm way too tall to fit in this and crawled through, pushed them out. And then they didn't even go all the way through. Actually, now I think of it, they landed at the very end of it. It must have been 10, 12 feet long, at least, maybe a little longer than that. If I couldn't have thrown it through, like the length of my room, it might have been 15 feet of pipe you had to go
Yeah.
through. And you get them out and you had to set them in the spot. And by the time I got through and put them in the spot, I was zapped. Like this took all my energy and my sweat was just pouring down my face. And so I draw my pistol and I kind of screwed up here too. And this goes back to our gaming, trying to game everything. In USPSA, one of the things you want to do is stay as far back from barricades as you can. And so I stayed way on the back edge because that way you can lean the farthest and see the most stuff without having to move too much. And so I thought, this makes sense. The problem was the stuff was so far over that you had to actually come and reach around. And so there's sweat in my eyes and I'm just like trying to blast around corners. I thought I shot the wall at one point, but they didn't stop me. Like I'm seeing dot, but then the pistol is, crooked with the wall and everything. And so I was just like, that couldn't have sucked worse. Like if I could do any stage over again, it's like, I got to redo that one. And turns out it sucked for everybody because I ended up getting second on that one. And so,
oh, wow.
So yeah, it worked out, but I'd still like to redo it. But yeah, I was just drenched in sweat and then you always have to carry back the weights.
Reset it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done the Chuck method, sandbags and stuff. If you can get it halfway, if you can get it any way through, because that's hell on the knees. I mean,
right.
I've actually, if it's smooth, like if it's actually a smooth pipe on the inside, I've actually used like sandbags or stuff as like a sled almost. And so I don't have to put my knees down. You can kind of put it down and kind of push it along and keep I did that on Heartbreak this year.
So they're really picky about your rifle staying down range, even though you cleared your rifle, you cleared it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because this is the second stage you said has been cleared. Is it like drop magazine, rack round out, and they're checking it?
Yep.
Okay.
So
that's not my favorite way to do it on the clock, but
right. So you're
as an RO or a competitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're slung, and now you're in a culvert, but your rifle is trying to point behind you, and they yelled at you for that. So you couldn't have even crawled through. You had to, after you threw stuff, you pointed your rifle forward and worked your way through the pipe, and then kind of got it out. So they were picky about that.
I mean, and there's range restrictions you got to deal with, and it sounds like to me, like I guess my MD gear's turning that like it'd probably be better just to ground the rifle on a table. They shoot it, it's still loaded, safe it, put it on a table, go do everything else. If you got to go back and reset the weights anyways, go clear it out. Then, if like rifle down range, I don't really like clearing guns on the clock. I like the drop magazine and shoot it empty because, man, it's so easy for a round to get stuck in there, maybe not extract, and the RO doesn't see it, and the competitor doesn't see it. I mean, if I don't shoot much steel case, but I don't know if you guys have ever looked at like steel case when it's in a chamber. It's that dark casing and stuff. Like if you don't happen to see the kind of shiny primer, like it looks pretty close to the black of a chamber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another weird thing, not weird, but just must have been the rules of their range, is between stages you had to run on a hammer down rifle. So you showed clear and then let the bolt go, pulled the trigger, and that's how you were supposed to run. And then despite that, 2 people, I think, were DQ'd for showing up on stages with ammo in their guns. So I don't know how that happened. I didn't hear the details of that, but yeah. So it was kind of weird to run with a hammer down on the rifle, but it's fine.
Yeah, because you can't have it on safe.
Right.
If your hammer's down, so.
But the same rules is that, you still showed clear on every stage as
Yeah.
you left and as you arrived. So
I know that. I think that's isn't that a USPSA when they're doing like PCCs and stuff that I shot a match and the ROs we had, it wasn't really USPSA match. It was a 2-gun night match, but we got a bunch of USPSA ROs apparently running our squad. And that was like, you had to go hammer down on everything. And then you had to rack the bolt back and put a flag in it or put it in a bag.
yeah,
It was like
hammer down and then you flag it. You don't have to go all the way bolt back, but you're definitely cocking.
But sometimes
the gun
you do.
with the flag.
Mine, you have to, if you got, so it's funny. It's just like hammer down. It's like, okay, now I've cocked the gun again and stuck a flag in it. Like, it's not like pistol where you do hammer down and you stick it in there. You're literally opening up the action again. Rules are, that's the safety rules I have to follow to shoot. That's fine. It's a little redundant, but
right.
So, okay, so that's stage 4, and you said 6 of them, so kind of 5.5. So, I guess talk us through stage 5.
So stage 5 was in the woods after the marsh. You go up this hill, this short little path, and they had some youth archery bows, and they had you pick a bow and an arrow, and they had like a 3D archery elk, and they had you shoot the elk for a time bonus, I guess. It's a 3D.
Take time off your run time.
Yeah, so it's a 3D archery target. You can't really see the scoring zones on them, but they said if you hit the vital zone, that was like a minute off your time, and then if you hit the bigger zone, it was 30 seconds, and then no big deal if you didn't hit it at all.
So don't waste a bunch of time getting a good shot.
Right.
Because even if you get a good shot and it takes you 30 seconds, you save 30 seconds.
Yeah, so this was a non-stage, in my opinion. I don't mean any offense to the match directors or anything, but there was no way that you could have you couldn't have heard the description, picked out your bow, shot it, got your arrow in less than a minute that it took for you to, you would have never gained your time back on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they wanted to just have something for you to do, and they were restricted by range and everything, but the arrow I shot only had 2 fletchings on it. It's like I hit it in what I consider the vital zones of an elk, as never hunted elk before in my life, but I was just outside of the circle, so I didn't get the bonus. But
I mean,
it was something.
And that's the kind of thing. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. And I don't know. I know Kevin. Is it Kevin Iyer?
Yep.
Was one of the MDs, and I don't know any of their experience with match directing, whether they do a lot of other sports or if this is their first doing all of it. I mean, that's one of those things you do something interesting, you try it, maybe the bonus should have been a little bit higher, maybe not. I mean, I do get where they're coming from. If you want to give people their money's worth. And archery is not a bad skill to have. Right. I think it's fun when matches kind of stretch what it is. I mean, I shot a slingshot once in a match for bonus points or whatever.
Or we throw grenades. We've thrown grenades at matches.
Yeah. You try to throw them into something, or knife throwing or whatever. It's all just different things. And
right. Yeah. So it is what it is. It was fine. I'm sure there were better arrows and whatnot, but if you're sorting through all the arrows and trying to find, it was fine. It's
like trying to find the straight pool cue in a bar.
Yeah.
Just you're looking at it, nope. Yeah. That arrow is nope.
Yeah. So it was okay.
Well, so at least you got close to your hit. So
yeah, I stuck the arrow. A lot of people didn't even get their arrow.
Yeah, your 4-H instructor would have been proud of you.
Right.
Yeah, I know Tiger had one at Zombie a couple years back, and I'm okay with the bow, but as soon as I picked it up, I completely forgot how to do anything with a bow and missed a shot. And
I did not poorly. Hit Tigers that year. Yeah, I did not hit.
Yeah, I think I had the arrow in backwards, maybe I had it on the out. It was a different bow than I've obviously shot before, and Mary mentioned something afterwards, so I did something wrong that I just didn't notice like in the moment because you're still trying to rush. It's a race. The whole thing's a race.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. So that's stage 5, and then stage 6, your last stage of the match.
So stage 6 was the long range stage. It was rifle and pistol again. You got into the back seat of a Blazer that was parked perpendicular to the range, and the back window was open, and they had 8 targets, maybe 8, either AC zone or full. I think they're all AC zone except for the last one was a full size IPSC target. 3 at 100, 3 at 200, and then 2 at 300. And they let you get in the car and get in position. And on the start signal, you went left to right, near to far. And then when you got to the last target, you hit that one twice and worked right to left, far to near. And then once you finish that, cleared your rifle for the RO again, and then drew your pistol. And to the left, there were, I think, just 3 steel targets. And you shot them 2, 2, 4, 2, 2. So in or near to far, 2 hits, 2 hits, 2 hits, and then far to near, 2 hits, 2 hits, 2 hits. And so
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so pretty straightforward stage. There was not a lot of wind. I just used 55 grain ammo and didn't have any problem with that. And then the pistol stuff was pretty close. Some people I know complained about the stage description, that either they didn't understand it or it wasn't read clearly. I had no problem with any of the stage descriptions, but some people got confused on that. Again, as I explained it to you, near to far, left to right, and then they read it. I don't know how you could have heard it better, but
yeah. I mean, that happens.
So that one went well for
I've
me.
been confused. I've been confused my whole life. So
Right. I told one of the ROs on that one when I got up to it that I felt like I was going to throw up. And so even though I was in that condition, I was still able to understand what was going on. And I ended up getting second on that one too. So
nice. And see, I mean, since you're almost throwing up, you must have had one of the fastest run times of the match.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think I was like 10th from the bottom. I think I was in the bottom quarter. So
okay, well that's
run
all
time.
right. I mean, and that's the balance. Run fast, shoot shitty, run slow, shoot really well.
Right.
Obviously some people can do both, but that's not always that's the exception, not the norm. Right. I think was Logan Dudley was at this match, right?
Yeah.
That man can sprint like a gazelle and still shoot amazingly. So I mean, I've talked to him. He's put in a lot. I mean, he puts in a lot of work to do that, both of those things. So
he won every single stage on the 10K, and he won the run time. So it is possible to just.
It is. There are a handful of guys that move fast and still. I mean, our co-host that's on here a lot, Mike Ford. I don't know that for rucking division, he has some very fastest or pretty close to fastest times, and can still be in the top shooters. So it's possible, but you got to put in a lot of work. Yeah. Which I do not do. Sounds like, at least with the running portion, Mark is not there yet.
I'm working on it though. I got my miles in today. Yeah. I got my miles in today, so I'm working on it.
That's all it takes. I mean, listen, we do the show. We're serious enough about competitive shooting that we like to talk about it to a bunch of strangers on the internet. But Mark's got a full-time job. He's got, wife and 2 kids. I've got a full-time job. I've got a wife and 3 kids. Everyone's got their priorities. Some people have jobs and lives and things that they can fit in, like a full-time dry fire, and they can lift and they can run and they can get to the range, and that is awesome. I'm glad that they have that. Me, I don't have that. I've got my prioritizing, and it's family and then like there's fitness there, and then like shooting and dry fire are further down that list of
Shooting
priorities
and
right
then
now.
dry fire, to be clear.
Yeah. No, I mean, dry fire is like, and people are like, well, you don't have 15 minutes. Like, well, yeah, I guess, but then I'm not like talking to my kids, or I'm not doing the dishes, or I'm not someone, I don't really watch TV. Like, I read a book before bed sometimes, but you will rarely catch me sitting down when I'm at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about priorities. And I mean, kudos to you, because I know we talk a lot online. You've been trying to put in the miles. You've been hitting the zone 2 training and seeing results, and that's what it takes. You know, we got Zombie coming up. I know you and your wife are trying to crush that Jack and Jill. I think you guys got a good chance. So it's all just being better than you were yesterday.
That's right.
So overall, how'd you place?
So I got,
obviously, if you got a slow run time, that doesn't help.
Right. So I got second in the shooting out of 41 or 42. And then when you add in my run time, I think I finished 9th out of 41 or 42. So
that's a solid finish. I mean,
and
that's a good example of that 50-50. You know, you shoot really, really well. Maybe you're a little slow, but that brings it up. Ideally we said you want to do both, but if you know you're slow, but you're a good shooter, you would probably be foolish to push your run time really hard and shoot really bad, because I've done that in the past. And if you're a slow runner, if you're just not, you just don't have that speed that other people do, your really, really hard running is probably still like a mid-pack finish. You know, you're not going to beat that fast guy, and you shoot bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
you got to lean on your strengths.
Right. I can think of matches where I did try and push myself right up to every stage. And when you're so tired, you're not, like we were talking about, you're not hearing the stage description properly. You're not, relaxed, ready to squeeze the trigger. You're just like, going through the motions, and you need to be on like it's a USPSA stage, like you just walked up to it and you've been doing nothing but standing around ready to shoot this if you want to be successful there.
Yeah, because if I'm a little slow on every shot, and there's half a second, there's 20 shots in the stage, that's a lot of time when you add it up. Some of these matches nowadays, we've talked about before, the shooting has really just continues to rise. The fitness part does, but like there were some fast guys early on in Run and Gun, and they didn't shoot all that well. And now a lot of those guys can shoot really, really well. And I don't remember, like Logan's a good example. I don't remember what Logan shot before. I don't think he was ever like a bottom of the, pack shooter, but I know he wasn't, a couple years ago, he wasn't winning every stage in a match in the shooting. And yet now he's the fastest runner as he was then, and he's winning every stage of a match. That shows you the progression. Right. So work on both, thing, but
yeah. So the other thing, going back to kind of the match, this is a brand new match for them. So one kind of a good thing was this was a ton of new people to Run and Gun. Most of these people, other than the Ohio, Kentucky guys and the match directors, had never done a Run and Gun before. Like it was funny to watch, just to like stand around at the start finish to see people like, did you see what that guy was using? It looked like he was wearing a backpack, and then he popped off the things and his rifle was right there. It's like, and then he was wearing he had like a belt, but he had just the way they were describing stuff. It's kind of neat to see. And like I said, the guy that had never shot a shotgun, there's at least one guy that had never shot 300 yards before. And so, like those kind of things that now they've hopefully got the bug. We talked about a lot of other matches there. So hopefully you see the Wisconsin contingent.
And I would say that's the case, because and I don't know if I've mentioned it before, I'm one of the admins on so it's if you're on Facebook, RNG Discussions is kind of the place, the Facebook group to come to. there's a lot of talk that people announce matches there. If you've got questions on gear, on training, I mean, everything from physical fitness, lifting, running, swimming, pistol, rifle, it's all talked about on there. Don't come on there and ask what the best shoe for run and gun is. That's like what's the best shotgun and 3-gun. Like, there are 600 threads in there where people are asking about shoe advice. Just do a search. But I see a lot. I bring that up because since that match, I have seen a ton of people, and to get in run and gun discussion, we're trying to keep the bots out. We're trying to keep trolls out. We're trying to keep the FBI or whoever wants to, the ATF that wants to try to snoop on gun. I don't know, but there's questions that you have to answer to get in. I mean, like I said, it's mostly just to get the bots and stuff like that they're trying to infiltrate groups and then spam it. But one of it's like, have you shot a run and gun or something like that? And a ton of them recently in the last, since that match and a little bit leading up to it, were all, I'm going to be shooting the Badger Trekker, or I shot the Badger Trekker and I want to learn about more. And so I've been seeing a lot of people that either were going to that match or went to that match now joining the discussion group to kind of weigh in and see about more matches. And so it's grown. That's awesome. That's a new part of the country.
Mm-hmm,
East
sure.
or west of the Mississippi, the South has a ton. You get down in Texas, you get into Oklahoma, there's run and guns all over the place. East of the Mississippi, it's kind of caught on. The East Coast, the kind of Midwest of Ohio and Kentucky and Tennessee and the Carolinas and West Virginia, and I guess Ohio, I'm the only one running anything run and gun related, but there's a lot of shooters from Ohio that go to these, and Missouri's got their little spot of them, but that's nice to get a new place in there. So, for you, any learning takeaways? Well, actually, first I forgot this. Anything you would change about the match? Like maybe what was your favorite thing about the match, and was there anything? And we're not trying to, shit on the MDs or the match or anything, but was there something you really liked? And was there something maybe next time you go, I think I could do this different, it may be better?
I liked all the shooting. Like the shooting challenges were right. Like I said before, they felt like what I expect when I think of a run and gun. So that I enjoyed, and obviously I shot well, so that always makes you feel like it was better. I like that a lot. If I would improve anything, like I said, the elk didn't do anything for me. If they could have done, one more shotgun thing, you could have shot a shotgun in the woods at something, something like that would have been better for me, or throw an axe, something.
What about chopping down a tree? Could they had a bunch of trees you chop down? Get your
maybe.
lumberjack on?
Maybe. Yeah, so that would be the only thing I changed there, but they did what they could with the range they had, and so I think that was fine. Like another thing they could have done instead of that would have been shotgun would be use one of their trap throwers and shoot a clay in the air. Like, okay, that's something. Just something that's
chop down a tree with a shotgun.
I mean, there's that too. That's always good. Or breach a door. That's always fun.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, breach a door and then go in and grab some intel. That'll help you later on in the match.
Right.
There
that
you
would
go.
Be good.
We're throwing out some ideas for Trekker 2024.
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. For yourself, any goals? Anything you learned, goals, takeaway, anything like that?
So
you personally.
Fitness is always a goal. Shooting wise, it went pretty well. The thinking about gaming and not gaming so much gaming, some of those things I said I was thinking be fast and they weren't necessarily fast. So kind of really trying to think more clearly before I start a stage. Gear wise, I kind of fell into some peer pressure that I'm usually better about. One thing was it was super hot and only half of the course you had any shade on. And so I carried way more water than I've ever carried for a run and gun. And I use the same amount that I always use. And so I always usually use about a pint or half a liter per 5K is usually my rule. And that's about how much I use. I did use ice for the first time in my Camelback, and that was kind of nice. And also a little silly.
Cold water and not warm water is like a big mental boost, especially late in a race.
Right. So I liked that. And I also succumbed to the pressure on carrying more ammo. I had an ammo loadout planned. And then, of course, in the walkthrough at the beginning, they're like, well, there's guys out there running out of ammo. And so it's tough out there. I was like, all right, I'll throw in the extra mags, and didn't need them. Would have been just fine with what I had. But those things, both of those are really not make or break. An extra half a liter of water or even a liter of water is only like 2 pounds. A loaded PMag is like a pound. A loaded Glock mag is like a pound. Like if 4 pounds is breaking your match,
you're fitting it like that 4 pounds didn't take you from like 10th from the bottom to like 10th from the top.
Right, exactly.
It probably didn't change a single position, if we're being honest, unless you were like that close, within a minute of someone. Probably not.
So, maybe on the other way I should look at it is like, don't be so concerned about those things. You were okay on the other end, like carrying extra water and because at the same time, I like to be streamlined. I want to only carry what I need, and you don't know what you need until you're out there. It would have been worse to
high speed, low drag. That's what I think of when I think of Mark.
It would have been worse to be a heat casualty out there. Like you pass out or something, and then it shuts down the range for everybody. So I guess it's better in that sense.
Yeah, I've ended with a lot of extra ammo and a lot of extra water and never regretted it, because I've run out of water out there. And even though it's like, I'm not going to get dehydrated, I've just sucked down the mental, like your mouth gets dry and you're just like, mentally, it's not great for your match. I'd rather I'm sucking on water the whole match. The whole time I'm out there, even if it's only a little bit, maybe I'm only using a liter, but just that mental of staying hydrated and keeping your mouth from going dry is like, that's huge for me. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but.
Right. We've talked about that before. Just being able to rinse out your mouth and spit, even if you're not swallowing it, or if you're.
Put it on the lens of your glasses because they're covered in mud.
Right. The other, if you're doing any sort of nutrition like goo or gummies or things like that, you got to have water to wash all that stuff down. So
goo. I love goo packs in a match, but goo packs with no.
Yeah.
That yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's like cake frosting all in your teeth and everywhere.
I get the chocolate one, so I like it, but yeah, it is. It's like eating icing, and yeah, you need something with it. So, well, we'll wrap this up. It sounds like a great match. It sounds like they knocked it out of the park for their first try.
Yeah,
maybe I'll make it out last.
Great job. ROs did a great job. I was happy with everything. Big shout out to all those guys, especially the ROs, match directors. Everything went great. Oh, the food too. They had some guy out there cooking, and I wasn't even hungry. I was done running. I was like, just support this guy. And the burger I had was amazing. And so everyone was happy with the food too.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Legion just had food. I think more matches. Something I've started doing with my run and gun, and it's a local sprinter or whatever, but you're sitting out there all day. Now, bigger matches do have some like Legion's got some vendors and stuff like that, but give people something to do. I started doing I set up a side match last time. A local company, RNG Tactics. So we'll throw them out because they've been nice enough to sponsor my match, and they sponsor a lot of matches in run and gun. So. But they gave one of their Steady Rest little hand guard bags to the top top shooter. One of my local gun stores donated a couple throoms. I just had a little steel plate, 2.5-inch holes, and then you had a 2-inch knockdown throom behind it, and you came up with pistol at like 15 yards. You get 2 shots. Whoever shoots it the fastest wins. So, you got to go 1 for 1. The way the target's set up, if you hit the edge, it's not, they were offset, so you weren't going to hit the throom. So you had to get, two shots in a 2-inch circle. And I think the fastest guy, who's a USPSA, he's a really good USPSA shooter. He didn't like two and something seconds from concealment from appendix, which is
Very
like,
impressive.
I thought,
That's
I
very
thought,
impressive.
I was like, I did it from low ready in like 6 seconds. And that's like not an impressive time, but I was like, okay, just screwing around, testing it. Someone's going to get into the threes. Like I'm pretty positive 3 is very doable at that distance for like a good shooter. Maybe we'll get a little bit quicker than that if they, if someone heroes or zeros it. And yeah, I don't know how many times you tried at that, but that's good shooting. So yeah, awesome.
So
I talked to, oh,
I was just going to say, thank the sponsors too. There's a ton of sponsors, a lot of companies that have supported Run and Gun from the beginning. I'd say thank you to Krieger Barrels. I picked up one of their barrels on the prize table. So yeah, a lot of great sponsors too. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I talked to Kevin a little bit at Legion. We were kind of sharing some drinks and stuff after the whole match was over, and he seemed to think it went really well. And more of these. Running gun's a great sport. I still love shooting 3-gun. Most of the time I'm running a 3-gun match. That's a great sport too. USPSA is a great sport. We need them all, but running guns it's in general, it's generally such a practical sport that it really, I like 3-gun because it tests 3 guns, a lot of different skills. You got to be able to shoot rifle a little further. You got to be fast up close. You got to be able to shoot pistol in a lot of different situations, close, far. Shotgun, you may have to shoot slugs. You may have to shoot bird shots. Sometimes you're shooting buck. Like, I like to be a well-rounded shooter. I'm not the best pistol shooter. I'm not the best rifle shooter. I like to try to be as well-rounded so that I can pick up anything. I don't want to be the guy that's like, if you give me my open gun and this specific gun that I've been shooting for 10 years and the same load, I can crush souls. Like, awesome for them. I think that's great. But then if you give them a Glock 17 or you give them a shotgun and it's just like they have, they maybe still be a pretty good shooter, but they don't have that skill anymore. Cause it's like, it's a very narrow skill set where it's like, give me a Glock 17 and an SKS and like, I'm probably going to do fairly well on it. Just because I've got the chance to shoot all of this different stuff. So, all right. Any closing remarks from you before we shut this down, Mark?
no, it was a great match. Had a ton of fun.
Awesome. Thanks for coming out and talking about it. We're kind of late on a weeknight, but I'm late on a weeknight. It's not too late for you yet. But all right. Well, thanks for listening. Try to catch us out at a range. I think we got the next big match we'll all be shooting is Zombie out in Missouri. There are still spots available for Zombie. So if you are wanting to do a team running gun match, it's a really great one. And like I said, I'm pretty positive there's still spots available. You should sign up and head out there and tell us you saw the show and say hi. So have a good one.